So, very good evening to all. I've made Girish ji, Sarika Jain ji, and Soni ji as co-hosts. So, you please keep on admitting people. Let me share my screen. Let me put it on this slideshow mode. I think we were at page number 22 of the study material. So, challenges. Let us start from here. Point number 7, 1.7. So, challenges of comparability faced by social sector organizations. These social जस्ट अ मिनट, आप थोड़ा सा म्यूट कर लीजिए जहां से भी डिस्टरबेंस आ रही है। ये प्रफुल्ल आपके यहाँ से आ रही है, ओके। तो जो भी कोस्ट है इनको अनम्यूट, वो थोड़ा म्यूट कर दीजिए अगर कहीं से डिस्टरबेंस आती है तो। So challenges of comparability faced by social sector organizations. These social sector organizations in India, these vary in terms of registration and regulation. This we have seen yesterday. Okay? There are separate formalities of registration and regulation for NGOs, which can be formed as trusts, societies, or Section 8 companies. With the changes in registration, their objective, source of funding, utilization of funds, and activities vary because different types of organizations, they have got different types of requirements. Like Section 10 audit under Section 10B has to be conducted for these trusts. Societies have got their own special requirements as to submission of accounts, etc. Hence, it is difficult to compare the outcomes and impact created by social sector organizations. Outcome and impact of social initiatives also depend upon the service users. Social interventions often look at changes in behavior, attitude, habits, and value, which cannot be measured with quantitative indicators. Now, because we are looking at social interventions, and social interventions, they expect a change in behavior, attitude, which is qualitative in nature and which cannot be measured in quantitative indicators. So there can be certain benchmarks which the organization can set, but most of the times these benchmarks are customized to specific social intervention. These cannot be applied across different social interventions to compare the outcomes. For instance, outcomes like improved self-esteem or enhanced social status, they are linked to the specific culture, social system, and attitudes of those beneficiaries. The changes or improvements are captured in terms of situation prior to implementation of social intervention and post social intervention. It cannot be compared with other groups of beneficiaries coming from completely different social systems and cultures. So there are challenges of comparability which are faced by social sector organizations, because different types of social organizations are subject to different types of regulations, and sometimes the expectation is to measure the qualitative impact, which may not be possible in with the existing regulations. Next is the social sector landscape in India. Uh, First of all, we'll have a look at the spectrum of development interventions. Economic development is not enough until it is accompanied with social justice and investment in infrastructure for social development. Towards this, there is active participation from academicians, planners, technocrats, philanthropists, and impact investors in the development sector. The development interventions are not unidisciplinary nor unidirectional, because they travel across various disciplines and across various directions, which they may appear to be at first sight. So these interventions are interdisciplinary in approach and have a combination of methods used. Adopted methods of intervention are guided by the social organization's value base, belief systems, and approach towards the issue to be addressed. An organization's mission and vision statement, along with the theory of change document, is usually a good reflection of the same. So the point here is that we have to understand the spectrum of development interventions. It because it travels through different disciplines and different directions. So definitely measurement of the same becomes difficult. So we have to make a guess through the organization's mission and vision statement, then theory of change document, etc., to gauge the impact of social interventions. Next is the need of different types of development interventions. So Annexure 2 is an illustrative list of different development interventions. So let us have a look at this Annexure 2. I think it was given on page number 43 or what?
43.
Ah, so Annexure 2, it is a page number 43. So we were somewhere here. This is Annexure 2. So Annexure 2 talks of different types of development initiatives. So types of intervention. First is the service delivery. Service delivery, basically, what is the type of service we are giving? Suppose we are running some vaccination drive. So in this vaccination drive, suppose we are doing this pulse polio campaign, and then the output has to be measured through the reduction in polio cases. And who are the key stakeholders? This Rotary Club, government hospitals, NGOs, CBOs, etc. Suppose we are engaged in specialized surgeries. Example is Smile Train India. What could be the output? Cleft or palate surgeries and children with cleft palate. So we have to see what is the impact. Some children are born with, say, some birth defects. Suppose there is some cut mark on the lip or something of that sort. The smile is distorted. So and we are undertaking specialized surgeries to correct such defects. So the example of such initiative is Smile Train India, which are engaged in this cleft palate surgeries, and the key stakeholders here are children with cleft palate. Service delivery in case of schools or educational projects for undervalued, underserved populations. So in this case, sometimes what we do is we have some seasonal schools for them. Suppose agricultural farmers are there. Now they will not send their children in the crop season. So they will be sending their children only when they are free from the farming activities. So for them, we are running seasonal schools, and there are nomadic tribes which keep on traveling from one state or one city to another. And the children of such nomadic tribes or migrant children, so we are running special centers for them also to impart education to such people. So what could be the output? The output could be Sakar Shala for sugarcane laborers, then learning companions, Eklavya schools. Some of these initiatives are done by this Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh also, which have a concept of Ekal school, in which there is only one teacher who is teaching all the subjects. And who are the key stakeholders in such schools? Sugar factories, then farmers, parents, government, and primary schools. Suppose we are running some skilling and training centers. So what are the examples of such centers? Tata Strive, then private ITIs in aspiration at districts. And what they impart? So skilling, upskilling, livelihood enhancement, and increased employability. And who are the stakeholders? NGOs, NSDC, National Skill Development Corporation, then youth, local, self-help, government. So these are the stakeholders. Suppose we are working in this ecosystem advocacy. So what is the type of intervention? So confederation of organizations, CIIs are there, SOCM, etc. And Sadhan is a such organization. So Sadhan is one such organization which is working in the field of ecosystem advocacy. And what are the outputs or benefits? Community development, finance, policy advocacy, etc. And which are the key stakeholders? Mutual funds, institutions, NGOs, RBI, etc. Environmental group. So the example of this is Vatavaran. Vatavaran is an NGO or social enterprise which is working in this field. And what are the benefits of this scheme? Entitlement of dwellers to forest rights. And who are the key beneficiaries, key stakeholders? Local government, forest department, and local community. Suppose someone is working in the field of research and advocacy. Then suppose someone is working on this maternal child health. Then the example is Search. Search is an organization which is doing this. And improved health status, reduction in infant mortality rate. These are the benefits which are being derived. And the stakeholders are NGO, government, tribal population, then local communities.
Sir, here this mutual fund institutions, how they are stakeholders for this purpose, MFI, how they are stakeholders?
Actually, suppose there is a confederation of industries. So now they are educating people in various types of initiatives which are being taken by such confederation. There might be, say, some imparting technology or investment initiatives. So mutual funds, because they are also floating some investment schemes, so investment might be boosted through such initiatives of confederation of organizations. So there could be something of that sort.
Okay.
So if there is this good governance, so this way you can take examples of all these things. Let us take this think tanks. So if you are running an organization which is proving to be a think tank, so and you are working in the field of this poverty and human development, it might be say through some research initiatives, some research organization which is working towards this poor people, and Poverty Action Lab, JPAL. So JPAL is one such organization which is working in this poverty and human development. And the initiative, the benefit is Global Research Center they've developed, and the stakeholders are government, social enterprises, and multilateral agencies which are working in this field. If some organization is working towards sustainable environment, then the benefits could be the intergovernmental climate change. And the stakeholders are policymakers, UN environmentalists, politicians, etc. If someone is working, so these are the various types of initiatives. And examples are also given. What is the area in which they are working? What are the benefits that can be derived? And who are the key stakeholders? So questions can be set on each of these initiatives. So we'll be having a question answer session tomorrow. I would try to post at least 40 questions before the class so that we can discuss those questions in the class. And those 40 questions would cover your 8 marks paper. So side by side, whenever we are studying a particular subject, so we'll be trying to develop the question answers also, so that you can again have a look at the study material. I have already shared in the group some important links of UN from UN website, so you can go through those links also in case you are interested in reading more than the material which is available on NISM website. Spectrum we have seen. Now let us have a look at the spectrum of stakeholders and their role in the development landscape. So there are different types of stakeholders, internal and external. So internal stakeholders, they include individuals and groups which are part of the organization. Suppose you are running a social enterprise, then the employees or the board members or contract or part-time employees, they could be internal stakeholders. However, the external stakeholders are not part of the internal management, but they can affect or get affected by the actions of the organization, such as funders, government, consultants, volunteers, beneficiaries, customers. So they could put a question to you that internal stakeholders do not include government, consultants, etc. Or external stakeholders do not include board members or part-time employees. Questions could be set something like this. So you have to read each and every word carefully. So there are some internal stakeholders, there are some external stakeholders. Basically, what is the context? Context is the social enterprise. So in a social enterprise, those who are associated with the management or working of the social enterprise, they will be internal stakeholders, and those are affected, so these will be external stakeholders. Second bifurcation could be direct and indirect stakeholders. So direct stakeholders, they are directly involved in the social interventions or get directly affected by social intervention. Whereas the indirect stakeholders are not directly involved in the social intervention, but they get some indirect benefits. Such as indirect beneficiaries, local community, local political leaders, etc. So in order to bring social change, it is crucial that all stakeholders contribute to the social intervention. So these are the various limbs which are working towards a common goal of social betterment. So in order to bring social change, it is crucial that all stakeholders, they contribute to the social intervention, and the achievement of the implementation is not only determined by the form of activities, but also by the implementation of the organization and cooperation made by various concerned parties. So these stakeholders have different interests and activities of the organization. Table 1.2 below explains few stakeholders and their interests with an example of social intervention in a vocational training program. So let us see this table 1.2, which is talking of vocational training program. So who are the stakeholders? Youth, because it is their vocational skills that are intended to be uplifted. Funder is external stakeholder. Government is external stakeholder. Now this teacher is whether internal stakeholder or external stakeholder. Because we have just now read the concept of internal and external stakeholders, and we read that internal stakeholders are employees, part-time employees, full-time employees, board members. So these are all the internal stakeholders. So the teachers will be teachers in a vocational training program will be internal stakeholders. Government will be external stakeholder. Funder will be external stakeholder. So all these examples are given. Then companies will also be the external stakeholders. But suppose some company is doing this social work, so that company will be internal stakeholder for that project. Parents of youth. So these are the companies which will be benefited by the vocational training which is being imparted. And parents of youth, they are the indirect beneficiaries basically. So they are indirect stakeholders because they will feel secure that the children are engaged meaningfully and not loitering around. So I think it is very clear. So if you read this 1.8.3, internal and external stakeholders and direct and indirect stakeholders. So by way of this example, you can easily understand. Social impact assessment of corporate social responsibility in India explains the stakeholders in the CSR ecosystem in India. 1 point. So let us read this table also. 1.3. So these are the stakeholders of CSR ecosystem. Donor companies or organizations. What is their role in CSR? They expect a return in terms of social impact from donations and investments made to achieve social objectives. Implementing agencies are also another stakeholder. And what is their role? They use CSR funds effectively to create social impact. Suppose there is a company. Now that company has earned a profit. Now that company is required to do some CSR activity. So definitely company people may not be equipped to do such CSR activity. So they will rope in some agency, some implementation agency for doing such CSR activity. And so this implementing agency will also become a stakeholder and they will use CSR funds effectively to create social impact. Another stakeholder could be the beneficiaries or end users, and they are impacted by social interventions and are expected to have positive intended social change. Then regulatory and monitoring authority, they offer various instruments to ensure effective and efficient CR practices like tax exemptions, award schemes, certification, issue of CSR compliances, as well as voluntary guidelines, standard setting, and information dissemination and guiding, training, and implementing best practices and promoting partnerships. So if there is some regulatory agency, in case of CSR activity, what could be the regulatory agency? Suppose a company is doing some CSR activity because it earned certain profits. Now, who could be the regulatory or monitoring authority in this case?
Company that नहीं होगा. Company.
ROC could be there. Some audit committee might be there. Internal audit committee, external audit committee. Then CAG might be there, which might be doing their audits. So the regulatory and monetary authorities. So regulatory means basically which are notified by the central government. So all the regulators, those who are regulating such companies, they will be the regulatory authorities. And monitoring authorities may be internal or external also. So these are the various stakeholders of this CSR ecosystem. Now this local administration. Suppose there is some SDM in the area in which this company is operating. There is some local panchayat, village panchayat, sarpanch. So developing partnerships with companies and implementing agencies to achieve common sustainable development agenda. So this could be the role in CSR. Then CSR professionals. So they will be ensuring that companies remain socially responsible and maximizing effectiveness of CSR expenditure. Now, let us study some social sector inequities. So, in the social sector, there are a lot of challenges across these SGDs. SGDs we studied yesterday. What are these SGDs? 17 SGDs, Sustainable Goals of Development, SDGs.
Development goals.
So, Sustainable Development Goals. So, these are 17. ये किसने बनाए थे SDGs? Member states of the United Nations. So they were promulgated by United Nations and they adopted the 2030 agenda for sustainable development in the year 2015. So basically it is a blueprint for peace and prosperity for the people and the planet now and into the future. But in the social sector, there are a lot of challenges. So each organization operates within its own area of expertise or a specific geography. So these areas are the thrust areas which can be demarcated by the themes, for example, education, women empowerment, development, financial inclusion. So within these themes, it can be hyper-localized sectoral thrust. For example, learning amongst primary grade students in tribal pocket of XYZ taluka of ABC district. Suppose a company, a project, there is a hydroelectric project which is situated in a particular taluka of a district. So they might want to work on the primary students in tribal pocket of that particular taluka in which the hydroelectric power project is situated. So there could be sectoral thrust and there could be some social sector inequities. And the performance of India is lowest in the areas of no poverty, zero hunger and gender equality. Because these UN agencies, they also keep on monitoring that to what extent these SDGs parameters are met. So as per their observations, the performance of India is lowest in the areas of no poverty, zero hunger and gender equality. And it is given in table 1.4. Let us see this 1.4. So top priority needs SDGs in which India's performance is the lowest. No poverty, zero hunger and gender equality. And what are the other strong development needs? SDGs in which India's performance is relatively low. So these also require more thrust, but these are the areas in which almost performance is the lowest. No poverty, zero hunger and gender equality. But other areas also there which require equal thrust and they are good health and well-being, quality education, decent work and economic growth, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, sustainable consumption and production, climate action, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. Now, what is left out of this? So, out of 17, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So, let us see what are 6 and 7. ये क्यों छोड़ दिया भाई? 6 and 7 में कुछ काम हो गया लगता है.
Clean water.
6 is clean water and sanitation, and 7th is affordable and clean energy. तो इनमें बोला इनमें इतना ज्यादा काम करने की जरूरत, बाकी तो सारे इसके अंदर ले लिया. 9th पॉइंट भी इसमें छोटा हुआ, इंडस्ट्री इनोवेशन एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. ठीक है. 10, 11, 12, 13, then 14, 15 लाइफ बिलो वाटर, लाइफ ऑन लैंड. ठीक है. और फिर पार्टनरशिप फॉर द गोल्स. तो इन एरियाज में लगता है देयर इज सम वर्क डन, और बाकी वाले जो एरियाज हैं दे रिक्वायर मोर थ्रस्ट. नाउ दिस टेबल 1.5, व्हाट इट सेज, these policy areas with high development needs and policy momentum. ये कौन से एरिया? Any areas में है growth. So SDGs 1, 8 and 17. इनमें भी high development needs है, ठीक है. Then balanced regional development, aspirational districts, SDGs, gender, इसमें भी कहाँ पर काम करने की जरूरत है. Then modernizing city governance for urban transformations 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11 and 12. तो हमारा बच्चा भी नालायक है, सभी जो पेपरों में नंबर कम है.
तो इनको याद कैसे कर सकते हैं इतने कि किसमें बहुत ज्यादा काम है, किसी में कम है?
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं, ऐसा इस तरह से दे में आस्क क्वेश्चंस लाइक ओके, जैसे इससे पहले वाला है ना. So they may ask, okay, SDGs in which India's performance is the lowest.
ये तो ठीक है, 3 है, इसमें तो कर लेंगे.
हाँ ठीक
बाकी में हाई डेवलपमेंट नीड्स एंड पॉलिसी इतने सारे हैं एसडीजी, तो ये
नहीं कोई बात नहीं, बट ऐसा ना दे में आस्क नेगेटिवली वर्डेड क्वेश्चंस. So they may ask, okay, what are the development priorities in India? So they may ask questions like this. वो कल क्वेश्चन बनाएंगे, then we'll have a better idea. सारे को तो देखो याद करना जरूरी नहीं है, because you don't need 100 marks, you need 60 marks. सारा याद हो जाएगा फिर तो 100 ही आ जाएंगे आपके. The government of India allocated a significant amount of funds towards development initiatives, giving more focus on health, education, infrastructure development, and environmental initiatives. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs have reported CSR spending in various sectors, which highlights that maximum CSR funds have been spent on health and sanitation. अब देखो ना भाई, CSR फंड्स में कहां पर हुआ मैक्सिमम? हेल्थ एंड सैनिटेशन पर हुआ, तो इसीलिए हेल्थ और सैनिटेशन को बाहर निकाल दिया ना उन्होंने. हेल्थ और सैनिटेशन में बोला भाई ऐसा इतना काम नहीं हुआ उसमें, ठीक है ना, वो क्लीन वाटर एंड सैनिटेशन, बिकॉज CSR spending was more on that. But they also judge these things based on certain parameters. So they might have seen the CSR funding, and when they observed that CSR spending in this health and sanitation is the maximum, so they said, okay, this area requires relatively less thrust and other areas require more thrust. बस. Followed by education, ठीक है ना. तो education उसके बाद आ गया. Differently abled and livelihood, this crores. The areas like gender equality, women empowerment, old age homes, reducing slum development need more funding support. So there was less funding support, and that is why they said that okay, in these areas the performance is poor. So any other fund, AOF. So central government funds, Prime Minister National Relief Fund, GWOR, gender equality, women empowerment, old age homes, reducing inequalities. Then environment, EAC, environment, animal welfare, conservation of resources. EDL is education, differently abled, livelihood. Other sectors are technology incubator and benefits to armed forces and administrative overheads. And HANC is heritage, art and culture. ये सारा इन्होंने abbreviations दिया हुआ. Now this geographical thrust. So geographically also we have to give importance. So geographical thrust is India is rightly called a country of contrasts. So these pertain not only to the diversity in culture and landscapes, but more importantly, the development indices of our states and regions. In India, some states indicate good performance through their development indicators across SDGs, while some are poor performers. The performance of states based on the SDG indexes formulated using composite score for each state or union territory, computed by aggregating their performance across the SDGs. So there could be question set of this, that okay, what is the performance indicator, or how the performance of states is calculated based on the SDG index. So it is calculated by using composite score for each state or union territory, which is computed by aggregating their performance across the SDGs. So what they do, they make a list of all the 17 SDGs, and then they allot a composite score for each state or union territory by aggregating their performance, which is based on certain indices. So of the Indian states, 112 districts have been identified as the aspirational districts by Niti Aayog. The intra-regional and inter-regional disparities are seen in the poverty index, agricultural and industrial development, infrastructure development index, infant mortality index. Social enterprises are focused to mitigate these development disparities through their programs, projects, and activities. They may also say that, okay, disparities could be intra-regional, inter-regional, both, none of the above. So they may put questions like this. Then technological thrust. Technology is described as the application of scientific knowledge to realms of human life. So India has witnessed a boom in technology being available on the supply side in the areas of agriculture, health, financial services, livelihood opportunities, education technology, and production. So STEM, science, technology, engineering, and medicine sectors are growing both as part of our economy as well as a differentiator within social sector funding. However, the gap divide is seen favoring the males versus females, urban versus rural, rich versus poor, and the youth amongst the working population. So there is a differentiation because youth are more technology updated as compared to older people, males, then urban people, and rich. So males, urban, rich, and youth amongst the working population are having technological advantage. And there is a gap or divide. So this is creating imbalances and the rightly being called the new face of inequality. The Indian government has launched e-governance, health, ID, JAM, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, and mobile, e-Kranti, e-Shram portal, and so on, with the aim to have a deep, direct, and positive impact on the health, livelihood prospects, access to financial products, and market accessibility. So these are some of the initiatives. So Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, and mobile. Jan Dhan Yojana, government initiated, then Aadhaar and this mobile. So JAM. Then e-Kranti, e-Shram portal for laborers, for workers, to have a deep and direct and positive impact on the health, livelihood prospects, access to financial products, and market accessibility. So government is updating people with technology through its various initiatives. For instance, within the agricultural sector, remote sensing, because there is use of this radar-like equipment also. Within the agricultural sector, remote sensing, unmanned aerial surveys, e-chopals, they represent how technology can enhance agriculture and provide value-added services. So digital agriculture includes inclusion of artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain technology to benefit the farmers. While this technology is available, the challenge is the reverse embrace, adoption of technology by the beneficiary group. That remains a challenge in India. Because you are imparting technology, okay, but the farmers also might be ready to embrace such technology. So their challenge is there, adoption of technology by the beneficiary group. That remains a challenge in India. This is exacerbated by the sectoral and geographical inequities. Now this OECD defines the digital divide as the gap between individuals, households, businesses, and geographic areas at different socio-economic levels about both their opportunities to access information and communication technologies and to their use of the internet for a wide variety of activities. So this digital divide, there could be a question on this, that OECD defines the digital divide as the gap between individuals, households, businesses, and geographic areas at different socio-economic levels about both their opportunities to access information and communication technologies, and to their use of the internet for a wide variety of activities. Now let us have a look at this Indian financial markets. This is another chapter. So till the point we have studied till now, that covers 4 marks paper, and you have to read it from the study material which is available on NISM website, which I have also shared in the group, and from the various links which I have provided in the group, in important links. And important links I have given for both, for these sectoral performances and these Indian financial markets also. These links I have shared today only. And there will be a MCQ tomorrow for first half an hour on these 2 sections which cover 8 marks paper. So now let us briefly look at the Indian financial markets. So the financial markets, they enable efficient transfer and allocation of resources for productive activities in the economy. Users of funds include governments, businesses, and households who seek funds to run their activities. Government, businesses, and households, they also act as providers of surplus funds. So they are providers and they are seekers of funds also. So how government could be a seeker of fund? Can anybody tell? Because government is also partnering in various types of activities. Maybe they have got their share in PSUs, so they might need funds to fund their activities. Intermediaries such as banks, financial institutions, mutual funds, and insurance companies, among others, they channelize the available surplus funds from lenders to the user. Suppose a household does his savings and he puts these savings in the bank or some mutual fund or some insurance company. Now these banks, mutual funds, or insurance companies, they are providing funding to the government, business houses who are seeking such funds to fund their activities. So this way the market is run. Financial market consists of various types of market: money market and securities market, investors, issuers of securities, intermediaries, and regulatory bodies, SEBI and RBI, etc. So all these put together, they make Indian financial markets. What are the types of financial markets in India? There is money market. So money market is an integral part of the financial system and includes instruments that provide short-term funds with maturity ranging from overnight to 1 year. Because you might have read the concept of repo rate and reverse repo rate. The purpose of the money market is to enable institutions and companies to meet short-term funding needs by borrowing and lending from each other. Money market securities consist of repos, reverse repos, certificates of deposits, treasury bills, and commercial papers. Now these treasury bills and commercial papers, they are issued by whom?
कॉर्पोरेट
हाँ जी,
कमर्शियल पेपर तो कॉर्पोरेट भी करता है,
हाँ, और ट्रेजरी बिल्स
टी-बिल तो गवर्नमेंट करती है.
बेसिकली यस, आरबीआई नॉर्मली आरबीआई के थ्रू होती हैं ये ट्रेजरी बिल्स और कमर्शियल पेपर्स. Then securities market. The market in which securities are issued, purchased by investors and subsequently transferred among investors, this is called the securities market or capital market. इसको हम shares market भी कह देते हैं. ठीक है, तो एक तो है हमारी मनी मार्केट, दूसरा है सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट. मनी मार्केट में तो क्या है कि पर्पस ऑफ मनी मार्केट इज टू इनेबल इंस्टीट्यूशंस एंड कंपनीज टू मीट शॉर्ट टर्म फंडिंग नीड्स बाय बोरोइंग एंड लेंडिंग फ्रॉम ईच अदर. ठीक है, तो मनी मार्केट में तो क्या होता है, ये आपस खरीदते रहते हैं. आरबीआई बैंक आरबीआई को देता है, आरबीआई बैंक को देता है. ठीक है ना, ये रेपो और रिवर्स रेपो रेट वाला जो फंडा है इस पे चलता है. ठीक है, ओवरनाइट दे बोरो मनी एंड दे लेंड मनी. ठीक है, क्योंकि बेस्ट यूटिलाइजेशन होना चाहिए. इफ मनी इज लाइंग अनयूटिलाइज्ड देन इट इज नॉट कैरिंग एनी इंटरेस्ट. सो इसके लिए क्या होता है कि ओवरनाइट बोरिंग और लेंडिंग भी चलती है. नाउ द सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट. The market in which securities are issued, purchased by investors and subsequently transferred among investors. This is called the securities market or capital market. बेसिकली क्या है, सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट में भी आप पैसा ही ले रहे हो, लेकिन वो लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए ले रहे हो. मनी मार्केट में क्या है, आप शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए ले रहे हो पैसा. The securities market has two interdependent and inseparable segments, namely the primary market और secondary market. इसमें securities market में दो चीजें आ गई, एक primary market आ गई और एक secondary market. So primary market, also called the new issue market, is where issuers they raise capital by issuing securities to investors. The secondary market, also called the stock exchange, facilitates trade in already issued securities, thereby enabling investors to exit from an investment or to accumulate more if it meets their expectations. Suppose a company is issuing debentures, तो वो क्या है, वो न्यू इश्यू. हाँ,
न्यू इशू प्राइमरी.
हाँ,
जितने भी
अच्छा,
आईपीओ है वो सारे प्राइमरी हैं.
हाँ, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
जनरल
अब चल,
ट्रेडिंग सारी सेकेंडरी.
हाँ जी, हाँ जी, हाँ. अब इस पे थर्ड पॉइंट पे चलते हैं. थर्ड पॉइंट क्या क्या बोलता है इसका? थर्ड पॉइंट है इंटरमीडिएरीज इन फाइनेंशियल मार्केट. सो हमने क्या देखा, मनी मार्केट देख लिया, एंड देन वी सॉ सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट. नाउ दिस व्हाट आर द इंटरमीडिएरीज इन फाइनेंशियल मार्केट्स. ठीक है भाई, इंटरमीडिएरीज कौन है? दोज हु आर द मिडलमैन बिटवीन द इन्वेस्टर एंड द अल्टीमेट सीकर ऑफ फंड्स. ठीक है, एक आदमी इन्वेस्ट करना चाह रहा है, दूसरा आदमी पैसे चाह रहा है, और बीच में मिडलमैन है. ठीक है, आप कंपनी के पास सीधे जाकर के तो नहीं शेयर खरीद सकते ना, वो उसके बीच में कोई स्टॉक ब्रोकर होगा, कोई स्टॉक एक्सचेंज होगा, कोई इंटरमीडिएरी होगा, उसी के थ्रू आप खरीदोगे. So these are the concepts of intermediaries in financial markets. So market infrastructure institutions हैं, stock exchanges हैं, then depositories and clearing corporations हैं. They are collectively referred to as market infrastructure institutions. इनको हम क्या कहते हैं? Market infrastructure institutions. So market infrastructure institutions include stock exchanges, depositories, and clearing corporations. The stock exchanges, they provide a trading platform where the buyers and sellers, investors can meet to transact in securities. ठीक है, और क्लियरिंग कॉर्पोरेशन क्या है? क्लियरिंग कॉर्पोरेशन परफॉर्म्स थ्री मेन फंक्शंस. क्या क्या फंक्शन है? एक तो क्लियरिंग और सेटलमेंट है ऑफ ऑल ट्रांजैक्शंस एक्सिक्यूटेड इन द स्टॉक मार्केट एंड कैरिंग आउट रिस्क मैनेजमेंट एक्टिविटीज. ठीक है, ये डिटेल में डिस्कस की गई है चैप्टर 2 में. और डिपॉजिटरी क्या है? डिपॉजिटरी इज एन एंटिटी फैसिलिटेटिंग होल्डिंग सिक्योरिटीज इन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक फॉर्म. जैसे आपने देखा होगा, यू माइट हैव सीन अलंकित असाइनमेंट्स, एनएसडीएल है. ठीक है, सो दीज आर द डिपॉजिटरीज व्हिच होल्ड शेयर्स ऑन योर बिहाफ. सो इट इज एन एंटिटी facilitating holding securities in electronic form and enables transfers of securities by book entry. So the main objective of depository is to provide maintenance of ownership और ट्रांसफर रिकॉर्ड्स ऑफ सिक्योरिटीज. आप कहते हो ना इन कॉमन लैंग्वेज क्या बोलते हो भाई, हमें डीमैट अकाउंट खुलवाना है, तो डीमैट अकाउंट कौन खोलते हैं? यही लोग खोलते हैं, डिपॉजिटरीज. आपको एक चेकबुक जैसा दे देते हैं, तो उसमें जब भी आपने ट्रांसफर करना हो कोई शेयर, वहां साइन कीजिए, हो जाएगा इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली ट्रांसफर. फिजिकल डिलीवरी का जरूरत नहीं है. सो दिस डिपॉजिटरी इज एन एंटिटी फैसिलिटेटिंग होल्डिंग सिक्योरिटीज इन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक फॉर्म and it enables transfers of securities by book entry. Main objective of depository is to provide maintenance of ownership or transfer records of securities in an electronic book entry form. So there are two depositories in India. एक तो ये CDSL है, Central Depository Services Limited, और दूसरा है NSDL, National Securities Depository Limited. Depository provides its services to investors through its agents called depository participants. ठीक है, तो ये जो दोनों है CDSL और NSDL, ये पूछ सकता है कि भाई द टू डिपॉजिटरीज इन इंडिया आर. ठीक है, कौन कौन से हैं? एक तो सेंट्रल डिपॉजिटरी सर्विसेज है और दूसरा नेशनल सिक्योरिटीज डिपॉजिटरी लिमिटेड. इसका फुल फॉर्म भी पूछ सकता है, ये थोड़ा इंटरचेंज भी कर सकता है. जैसे कह सकता है भाई सेंट्रल सिक्योरिटीज डिपॉजिटरी लिमिटेड, विच ऑफ दीज इज नॉट ए डिपॉजिटरी इन इंडिया. एक डाल देगा मान लो नेशनल डिपॉजिटरी सर्विसेज लिमिटेड, दूसरा डाल सकता है आपको सेंट्रल सिक्योरिटीज सर्विसेज लिमिटेड. एक सही डाल देगा, दो ऑप्शन सही डाल देगा. इस तरह से भी दे मे गिव two correct and two wrong answers also. The depository, they provide services to investors through its agents called depository participants. तो पहले हो गए डिपॉजिटरीज, उनके नीचे हो गए फिर डिपॉजिटरी पार्टिसिपेंट, उसके बाद में फिर कस्टोडियंस है। कस्टोडियंस कौन है? कस्टोडियंस दे होल्ड, बिकॉज ऑल दीज कॉन्सेप्ट्स आर इंपॉर्टेंट और इस पर दे में आस्क यू क्वेश्चंस। कस्टोडियंस कौन है? कस्टोडियंस दे होल्ड सिक्योरिटीज एंड मैनेज बैंक अकाउंट्स ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ द इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स। तो ये क्या है? इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स के बिहाफ पर जो है दे आर होल्डिंग सिक्योरिटीज एंड मैनेजिंग बैंक अकाउंट्स, ठीक है। They manage the transactions pertaining to delivery of securities and funds after a trade is made through the broker and also maintain the accounts of securities and funds. Custodians are usually large banks. ठीक, इनका काम क्या है? कस्टोडियंस का काम क्या है? They hold securities and manage bank accounts on behalf of the institutional investors. ठीक है। They manage the transactions pertaining to delivery of securities and funds after a trade is made through the broker and also maintain the accounts of securities and funds. So custodians are usually large banks. Then stock brokers or authorized persons आ गए। ये stock brokers कौन है? Stock brokers are members of a stock exchange who act as an agent for the clients and buys and sells shares on their behalf in the market. So all secondary market transactions on stock exchanges have to be conducted through registered brokers. Okay. Then authorized persons. Authorized persons are agents of brokers. So previously referred to as sub brokers. पहले इनका नाम क्या होता था? Sub broker. अब क्या होता है? Authorized persons. ठीक है. And are registered with the respective stock exchanges. Authorized persons, they help in reaching the services of brokers to a larger number of investors. फिर इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंक्स है। इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंक्स क्या है? इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंक्स आर फाइनेंशियल एंटिटीज दैट प्रोवाइड स्ट्रेटेजिक एडवाइस टू कंपनीज, गवर्नमेंट्स एंड अदर्स ऑन देयर कैपिटल रिक्वायरमेंट्स एंड इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजंस। इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकिंग भी बहुत अच्छा फील्ड है। इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकर बहुत सारे लोग बनते हैं, बहुत ही अच्छा पे पैकेज मिलता है। तो इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंक्स क्या हैं? दे आर फाइनेंशियल एंटिटीज दैट प्रोवाइड स्ट्रेटेजिक एडवाइस टू कंपनीज, गवर्नमेंट्स एंड अदर्स ऑन देयर कैपिटल रिक्वायरमेंट्स एंड इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजंस। एक कंपनी ने, सपोज वन कंपनी wants to acquire another company, then who will decide? This investment banker will advise the company that okay, what benefit you will get by investing in that company or by acquiring that company. So this is a crucial decision. So these investment banks, they provide strategic advice to companies, governments, or others on their capital requirements and investment decisions and arrange raising such funds on terms that are most suitable to the company. Their activities include advisory services or business expansions, project financing, mergers and acquisitions, investment valuation, among others, and they charge a fees for their services. ठीक है। उसके बाद में क्या होता है? इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज। ये इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज क्या करती हैं? They are intermediaries that pools in surplus funds from corporates and households to invest in financial markets. जैसे LIC है, गवर्नमेंट जो है, गवर्नमेंट भी LIC से बहुत सारे पैसे लेती है। LIC गवर्नमेंट के भी बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स को फंड करती है। So these insurance companies are intermediaries that pools in surplus funds from corporates and households and invest in financial markets. The large pool of funds mobilized by the insurance companies that act as a source of long-term funding for government and corporates. तो नॉर्मली क्या होता है? ये जो इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज हैं, इसे ये जो फंड प्रोवाइड करती हैं, ये लॉन्ग टर्म फंडिंग प्रोवाइड करती हैं। कैसे लॉन्ग टर्म फंडिंग प्रोवाइड कर सकती हैं? कैन एनीबॉडी टेल? So why they are able to provide long-term funding? These insurance companies, because if you take an insurance policy, you will normally take it for a period longer than 5 or 10 years because that allows you some tax rebate also. So normally the minimum period is not less than 5 years or 10 years in case of insurance policies also. So relatively funds are available with insurance companies for a larger period. They know that okay, in this particular year, so much policies will be maturing and they are getting some new policies also. So they can manage their funds in such a way that they are able to provide long-term funding for governments and companies. Then pension funds. These pension funds are intermediaries who are authorized to take contributions from eligible individuals and invest these funds according to directions of the contributors to create a retirement corpus. These funds provide different options for investment of the contributions, such as debt, equity, or a combination. Investors select the type of fund depending upon their ability to take risk and their requirement for returns. You might have observed, ये बहुत सारे पेंशन फंड्स होते हैं, बहुत सारे आपके पीएफ के भी ट्रस्ट होते हैं, in which there are trustees, and the trustees, they decide, okay, which are the companies in which we can invest funds so that we can provide interest to our employees. ठीक है? Similarly, there are pension funds also. So basically, the decision is being taken by the investors, because investors are the ultimate beneficiaries of such pension funds. Now, asset management companies and portfolio managers, ये क्या है? ये investment specialists हैं, ठीक है, who offer their services in selecting and managing a portfolio of securities. Asset management companies are permitted to offer securities called units that represent participation in a pool of money, which is used to create the portfolio of a म्यूचुअल फंड. ठीक है, तो ये एसेट मैनेजमेंट कंपनीज हैं और बहुत सारे पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजर्स हैं. इनका क्या काम है? दे आर इन्वेस्टमेंट स्पेशलिस्ट. So they offer their own units that represent participation in a pool of money. Suppose you take units from a mutual fund, some asset management companies. So portfolio managers, they do not offer any security and are not permitted to pool the money collected from investors. ये क्या है? They take money from investors and they invest. ठीक है ना? They are not permitted to pool the money. So they will not keep the money with themselves. What they will do? They will take money and they will invest it. They act on behalf of the investor in creating and managing a portfolio. Both asset managers and portfolio managers, they charge the investor a fee for their services and may engage other security market intermediaries such as brokers, registrars, and custodians in conducting their functions. ठीक है, उसके बाद में फिर आते हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर्स. ये सारे क्या किसका पार्ट है? आपकी जो इंडियन फाइनेंशियल मार्केट्स है. Now these investment advisors, they work with investors to help them make a choice of securities that they can buy based on an assessment of their needs, time horizon, returns expectation and ability to bear risk. ठीक है भाई, बहुत सारे इन्वेस्टर्स कहते हैं ओके, my age is relatively less, ठीक है ना, तो I may need funds at retirement stage, so you invest my funds in equities which are likely to give higher return over a longer period of time. ठीक है, बहुत सारे क्या होते हैं अपने चिल्ड्रन की नीड्स के हिसाब से कर लेते हैं. वो देखते हो कि आफ्टर 5 years माय चिल्ड्रन विल बी कॉलेज गोइंग, सो आई विल बी नीडिंग फंड्स एट दैट टाइम. सो अकॉर्डिंगली they sound the investment advisors that okay, you suggest us some instruments based on our needs and our risk bearing capacity. They may also be involved in creating financial plans for investors where they define the goals for which investors need to save money and propose appropriate investment strategies to meet the defined goals. Then there are credit rating agencies. So credit rating agencies, what they do? They look at the financial situation of the issuing just a minute. So they look at the financial situation of the issuing entities and then they rank their various instruments in terms of their ability to safely repay. Like you might have heard AAA rating, AA rating, single A, minus A, and like this. So they rank the various instruments in terms of their ability to safely repay. Higher the rating, better the ability to pay. So someone with AAA rating means the company is relatively safer. And someone with single A rating or minus A rating, that means there could be problem. They act as information bridge between the investor who might not understand the financial details of the issuers or might not have access to the required information. So these credit rating agencies, they come in between. So credit ratings provided by these agencies is a simple way to have an idea about the financial position of an entity and how this would affect an investment into it. तो कौन कौन सी क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसीज हैं जिसके बारे में हम सुनते हैं? Can anybody name some of
Yeah.
the?
CRISIL,
केयर है, केयर है, क्रिसिल है, इकरा है, स्टैंडर्ड एंड पुअर है, मूडीज है, ऐसे बहुत सारी एजेंसीज हैं. हाँ. Now this KYC registration agencies, they perform a significant task in the securities market. ये क्या है? The need to ensure a proper verification of the investors who are putting their money into the various investments is done through the KYC process. ये जो KYC details है, they are maintained by the KYC registration agency. Every time that an investor goes to transact, they would not need to submit the same documents, and this can be verified through the details maintained by the KYC registration agency. You might have heard of this vaults, ठीक है ना? बहुत सारे vaults maintain होते हैं जहां पर आप you can deposit your KYC documents. तो उस vault के through भी आपका KYC complete हो सकता है. The records of the investors are maintained in a central database on behalf of the various intermediaries, which can be fetched when required. ठीक है. उसके बाद में then there is concept of registrar and transfer agents. These registrar and transfer agents, they are the custodians of the investor data, both for fund houses or corporates. So these registrars and transfer agents are responsible to record and maintain data, both financial and non-financial. ठीक है. शेयर्स इशू करने हैं आपको, डिविडेंड्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना है. Who does this? Registrar and transfer agents. So they are responsible to record and maintain data, both financial and non-financial, either in physical or in electronic form. RTS, they also ensure smooth processing of investor service requests, both financial and non-financial, such as mutual fund transaction requests, KYC updation, processing corporate actions on behalf of issuer, etc. उसके बाद में क्या है? NBFCs है और हाउसिंग फाइनेंस कंपनीज है. These non-banking finance companies and housing finance companies, they are route for investors to access funds for their needs. ठीक है. The housing finance companies, they provide housing loans that are long-term loans for purchasing property, and this ensures that the individual is able to finance their asset building activity. NBFC, they also provide finance for a wide variety of areas, ranging from personal loans to consumer durable loans. They ensure that those who need money for such purchases are able to have access to it. अच्छा, NBFCs को fund मिलता कहाँ से? Where from these NBFCs they get funds?
Normally there is fund through FII, मतलब फाइनेंशियल बाहर से लेते हैं, इन्वेस्टर्स देते हैं, एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स हैं या VCs देते हैं, you know, all that market is there.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. और इंडियन जो अपने इन्वेस्टर्स है, स्मॉल इन्वेस्टर्स है, वो भी एनबीएफसीज में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं और एनबीएफसी फिर आगे लोन दे देती हैं. और हाउसिंग फाइनेंस कंपनीज, इनको फाइनेंस कहां से मिलता है भाई? ये तो हाउसिंग लोन दे रहे हैं, इनको फाइनेंस मिल कहां से रहा है? मिलता भी तो कहीं से होता है. हाँ,
ये भी फंडिंग लेते हैं, वैसे इनकी भी VCs हैं, स्पेशलाइज्ड है.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. हाँ. उसके बाद में देन देयर आर क्रेडिट ब्यूरोज. सो क्रेडिट ब्यूरोज और क्रेडिट इंफॉर्मेशन कंपनीज, दे कीप द रिकॉर्ड ऑफ द लोन सर्विसिंग बिहेवियर ऑफ द बोरोवर्स. ठीक है. जैसे यू माइट हैव रेड दिस सिबिल स्कोर. तो ये जो क्रेडिट ब्यूरोज है या जो क्रेडिट इंफॉर्मेशन कंपनीज है, नाउ दे आर डिफरेंट. वो एक तो क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसीज हो गई, दे आर डिफरेंट. क्रेडिट ब्यूरोज, दे आर डिफरेंट. ये क्रेडिट ब्यूरोज या क्रेडिट इंफॉर्मेशन कंपनीज, दे कीप द रिकॉर्ड ऑफ द लोन. इसके बारे में तो कुछ दोनों को मिक्स करके दे माइट पुट यू सम क्वेश्चन. ठीक है भाई, आपको ताकि कुछ कंफ्यूजन तो नहीं है क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसी और क्रेडिट इंफॉर्मेशन एजेंसीज में. They keep the record of the loan servicing behavior of the borrowers and then assign them a credit score to reflect their overall. वही बोलते हैं ना, अगर आपका 750 प्लस स्कोर है सिबिल स्कोर, तो देन इट इज गुड. अगर 600 से कम है तो पुअर है. इस तरह से a higher credit score means a better situation for the borrower, that is they are more likely to get a loan as compared to someone with a low credit score. They form a crucial part of the entire system because they highlight the risk faced by lenders and help them to make the right lending decisions. उसके बाद में फिर टाइप्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स आ गए आपके. ये टाइप्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स में कौन से हैं? कुछ रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स हैं. ठीक है. इंडिविजुअल इन्वेस्टर्स हैं, who apply or bids for specified securities for a value of not more than INR 2 lakhs. इनको हम कहते हैं रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स. ठीक है. जो 2 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर रहे, उनको हम कहते हैं रिटेल इंडिविजुअल इन्वेस्टर्स. ठीक है. You might have noticed कि भाई आपको होता है ना कि इन्वेस्टमेंट मोर देन 2 lakhs इन इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न ऑल्सो आपको 26 ईयर्स में भी रिफ्लेक्ट हो जाता था पहले, ठीक है ना। तो यही कॉन्सेप्ट है वो रिटेल इंडिविजुअल इन्वेस्टर्स, ठीक है। देन इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स, दे आर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस दैट इन्वेस्ट लार्ज सम ऑफ मनी एंड एम्प्लॉय specialized knowledge and investment skills. Institutional investors, they comprise domestic financial institutions, banks, insurance companies, mutual funds, and foreign portfolio investors. An FPI is an entity established or incorporated outside India that proposes to make investments in India and any other entity specified by SEBI as an institutional investor. तो इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन पूछ सकता है आपसे एफपीआई पर। एफपीआई पे क्या पूछ लेगा कि ये जो फॉरेन पोर्टफोलियो इन्वेस्टर है ये क्या, it is an entity established or incorporated, number one option in India, second outside India, third option whether inside or outside India, और चौथा ऑल ऑफ द अबव। इस तरह से दे में आस्क यू क्वेश्चंस, ठीक है। तो ये कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट टर्म्स हैं विच यू मस्ट रिमेंबर, इस पे थोड़ा सा ज्यादा ध्यान दीजिएगा। दैट proposes to make investments in India, तो एफपीआई क्या है, इनकॉर्पोरेटेड तो आउटसाइड इंडिया है लेकिन इन्वेस्टमेंट कहाँ हो रही है, इंडिया में, ठीक है। any investor other than retail individual investor and institutional investor is called non institutional investor। तो तीन हो गए, एक हो गया रिटेल इंडिविजुअल इन्वेस्टर, एक हो गया इंस्टीट्यूशनल, और तीसरी कैटेगरी हो गई हमारी नॉन इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर, ठीक है। उसके बाद में आ गए एक्रेडिटेड इन्वेस्टर्स, ये कौन से हैं? The concept of a class of investors who have an understanding of various financial products and the risk returns associated with them and therefore are able to take informed decisions regarding their investments is recognized by many securities and financial market regulators around the globe. These investors are typically termed as accredited investors or qualified investors or professional investors. ठीक है? You might have read the concept of qualified institutional buyers in case of these सरफेसी एक्ट। सरफेसी एक्ट में क्या होता है, ये जो एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनीज हैं तो दे इशू स्क्रिप्ट्स टू नॉर्मली क्वालिफाइड इंस्टीट्यूशनल बायर्स। तो ये क्वालिफाइड इन्वेस्टर्स हैं बिकॉज ये क्या करते हैं, दे अंडरस्टैंड द मार्केट, ठीक। रोल ऑफ इशुअर्स, तो इशुअर्स कौन है, इशुअर्स आर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस दैट रेज मनी बाय इशूइंग सिक्योरिटीज। अब उनकी शॉर्ट टर्म भी नीड्स हो सकती हैं, लॉन्ग टर्म भी नीड्स हो सकती हैं, ठीक है ना, on their obligation to pay, cost they are willing to pay, ठीक है ना। तो issue of securities in the primary market is made by different stakeholders such as central, state and local government, public sector units, private sector companies, banks, financial institutions and NBFCs and म्यूचुअल फंड्स। तो प्राइमरी मार्केट में कौन इशू कर रहे हैं, ये लोग इशू कर रहे हैं। कोई कंपनी भी इशू कर सकती है, गवर्नमेंट भी इशू कर सकती है, पब्लिक सेक्टर भी हो सकता है, प्राइवेट सेक्टर भी हो सकता है, बैंक का भी होता है, फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस भी, एनबीएफसीज भी और म्यूचुअल फंड्स, ठीक है। उसके बाद में आ गए आपके फाइनेंशियल मार्केट रेगुलेटर्स। ये क्या है, इसको और देख लेते हैं। ये जो फाइनेंशियल मार्केट रेगुलेटर्स है, रेगुलेटर्स कौन होगा, बेसिकली आरबीआई होगी, एमसीए होगा, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फाइनेंस होगी, ठीक है ना। तो यही सब रेगुलेटर्स होंगे हमारे, सेबी होगी, ठीक है, आईआरडीए होगी। तो ये सारे जो है, पेंशन फंड रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटी है, ये सारे हमारे मार्केट रेगुलेटर्स हैं। मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फाइनेंस है, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट अफेयर्स है, उसके बाद में रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया है, ठीक है। तो ये सारे हमारे, पेंशन फंड रेगुलेटरी डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटी है, सेबी है, ये सारे हमारे रेगुलेटर्स हैं, ठीक है। आईआरडीए है। तो आईआरडीए जो है ये क्या काम करती है, इसको थोड़ा देख लेते हैं। आईआरडीए का काम ये है कि भैया जो इंश्योरेंस रेगुलेशन है बेसिकली, सो दिस इज द लाइसेंसिंग अथॉरिटी फॉर इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज। क्योंकि इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज क्या करती हैं, पब्लिक से पैसा उठाती हैं, तो इनके लिए क्या रिक्वायरमेंट दी हुई है कि दे हैव टू इन्वेस्ट सर्टेन फंड्स, दे हैव टू कीप सर्टेन फंड्स विद द रिजर्व बैंक और विद सम सेंट्रल एजेंसी। So this Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority is the licensing authority for insurance companies and defines the capital and net worth requirements for इंश्योरेंस कंपनी। तो इसकी जो IRDA क्या करता है, IRDAI ये करता है कि जो whosoever wants to, क्योंकि अब इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर का भी प्राइवेटाइजेशन हो चुका है, ठीक है ना। पहले तो क्या होता था कि एक तो LIC होती थी और 4-5 अपनी इंश्योरेंस कंपनी होती थी, नेशनल इंश्योरेंस, ओरिएंटल इंश्योरेंस, ठीक है। अभी क्या है, अभी बहुत सारी आ गई, इफको टोक्यो आ गई, बजाज आ गई, बहुत सारी कंपनी आ गई इंश्योरेंस फील्ड में। सो नाउ हु डिसाइड्स द कैपिटल और नेटवर्थ रिक्वायरमेंट्स, उसके लिए एक रेगुलेटर बना दिया, इंश्योरेंस रेगुलेटरी एंड डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया। It ensures the adherence of insurance products to the rules laid down and defines the rules for the terms and conditions of insurance contracts. भाई सम एश्योर्ड क्या होगा, सरेंडर वैल्यू क्या होगी, सेटलमेंट ऑफ क्लेम्स कैसे होगा, नॉमिनेशन असाइनमेंट वगैरह, सो दैट ऑल दी थिंग्स आर एट पार, ठीक है। तो ये सब काम कौन करता है, इनका IRDAI। उसके बाद ये पेंशन फंड रेगुलेटरी एंड डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटी है, PFRDA। तो PFRDA क्या करता है, दिस द अथॉरिटी इंटरेस्टेड टू एक्ट एज ए रेगुलेटर ऑफ द पेंशन सेक्टर। तो जैसे वो IRDAI इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर को रेगुलेट करता है, दिस वे PFRDA दिस रेगुलेट्स द पेंशन सेक्टर, ठीक है। So it is responsible for registering various constituents such as the fund managers, custodians, central record keeping agency and trustee banks, and to define the parameters of their roles and responsibilities. उसके बाद में लेट अस सी दी वेरियस टाइप्स ऑफ सिक्योरिटीज। सिक्योरिटीज में कौन कौन से सिक्योरिटीज हो सकती हैं, इक्विटी हो सकती है, देन डेरिवेटिव्स हो सकते हैं, ठीक है ना। तो डेरिवेटिव्स में क्या आ जाता है, ये फ्यूचर्स एंड ऑप्शंस आ जाते हैं, ठीक है। अब फ्यूचर्स क्या है, इसके ऊपर दे में आस्क यू क्वेश्चन कि भाई फ्यूचर होता क्या है। सो फ्यूचर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स आर एग्रीमेंट्स बिटवीन ए बायर एंड सेलर to buy or sell the underlying asset at a predetermined price and quantity on a predetermined date। तो इसमें क्या रहता है, प्राइस, क्वांटिटी और डेट तीनों प्रीडिटरमिन्ड रहती है, ठीक है। And this future is a contract, this is an agreement between a buyer and a seller to buy or sell the underlying asset। Options क्या है, options are contract that give the holder of the option the right but not the obligation। उसके बाद right आ जाता है, ऑब्लिगेशन नहीं है टू बाई और सेल दी अंडरलाइंग एसेट, ठीक है। कहते हैं ना ऑप्शन परचेज कर ले। उसके बाद में कुछ फिक्स्ड इनकम सिक्योरिटीज है। फिक्स्ड इनकम सिक्योरिटीज में क्या है, जो डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स है हमारे, ठीक है ना। उससे क्या है, जिनको भी रेगुलर चाहिए अमाउंट तो वो फिक्स्ड इनकम सिक्योरिटीज में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं। उसके बाद में फिर उसके बाद आ जाता है अगला पॉइंट, कमोडिटीज। कमोडिटीज क्या है, दीज आर इन्वेस्टमेंट्स इन रियल एसेट्स जैसे गोल्ड, सिल्वर, कॉपर, एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोड्यूस, आजकल जैसे गोल्ड बॉन्ड्स भी आए हुए हैं, ठीक है ना। तो कमोडिटी इन्वेस्टमेंट कैन बी इन फिजिकल फॉर्म बट इज जनरली इन द फॉर्म ऑफ फाइनेंशियल प्रोडक्ट्स, ठीक है। कमोडिटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स हैं, एक्सचेंज ट्रेडेड फंड्स हैं, कमोडिटी डेरिवेटिव्स हैं, कमोडिटी ETFs एंड म्यूचुअल फंड्स आर सुटेबल फॉर रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स। उसके बाद में फिर रियल एस्टेट आ जाता है। रियल एस्टेट में क्या है, दिस इज द लार्जेस्ट एसेट क्लास इन द वर्ल्ड। It offers significant diversification opportunities. Investors can invest into real estate with कैपिटल एप्रिसिएशन एज एन इन्वेस्टमेंट। एक प्लॉट लेके रख दो आप, बढ़ जाएगा, तो ये है वो रियल एस्टेट। इट इज यूजुअली लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट। रियल एस्टेट इज क्लासिफाइड इनटू टू सब क्लासेस, एक तो कमर्शियल रियल एस्टेट है और दूसरा रेजिडेंशियल रियल एस्टेट है। तो रियल एस्टेट इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑफन इन्वॉल्व लार्ज कमिटमेंट्स, रियल एस्टेट फंड्स एंड रियल एस्टेट इन्वेस्टमेंट ट्रस्ट्स, ठीक है। तो यू माइट हैव रेड दिस कॉन्सेप्ट, रियल एस्टेट फंड्स और रियल एस्टेट इन्वेस्टमेंट ट्रस्ट्स। They emerged as good options to enable investors to take exposure to this asset class with smaller outflow commitments, ठीक है। But you invest in some real estate investment trust, ठीक है। तो वो क्या कर रहे हैं, ये जो इन्वेस्टमेंट ट्रस्ट है, दे आर इन्वेस्टिंग इन रियल एस्टेट, ठीक है। अब जैसे कमोडिटीज है, तो कमोडिटीज में कौन इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, वो जो कर रहे हैं जो अपना ये एक्सचेंज ट्रेडेड फंड्स वाले हैं, ठीक है। इसी तरह से कुछ म्यूचुअल फंड्स हैं, दीज आर द इन्वेस्टमेंट व्हीकल्स दैट पूल टुगेदर द रिसोर्सेस। They pool together the funds collected from a large number of investors and they invest these funds in debt, equity or other asset classes according to a specific mandate. Mutual funds are best suited for retail investors। तो ये आपका यहाँ पर ये खत्म हो जाता है अपना 34। ये एनेक्सर हमने पहले ही देख लिया। तो हमने क्या किया, वी सॉ द ओवरऑल पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ सोशल सेक्टर इन इंडिया, ठीक है। और उसके बाद में देन वी सॉ these Indian financial markets. Okay. Tomorrow, what we will do, we will start with an MCQ test on these two chapters which you have done already, the social sector in India and Indian financial markets. And then we will move on to the next topic, which is introduction to trading, clearing, settlement and risk management on stock exchanges. ये चैप्टर 2 फिर हम कल इसको करेंगे. और ये जो चैप्टर 2 है एक बार देख लेते हैं. आई थिंक इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट चैप्टर. लेट अस सी द परसेंटेज, कितना अलॉटमेंट है इसको. ये शुरू में दिया हुआ है. इसके लिए जो आपके है ये आती है 4 मार्क्स का, इंट्रोडक्शन टू ट्रेडिंग, क्लियरिंग, सेटलमेंट एंड रिस्क मैनेजमेंट. फिर उसके बाद में नेक्स्ट टॉपिक आएगा इंट्रोडक्शन टू स्टॉक एक्सचेंज विच इज ऑफ 10 मार्क्स. So I am deliberately going a bit slow for the initial 4-5 days so that you can develop a very deep understanding and interest in the subject. ठीक है ना. 4-5 दिन बाद जो थोड़ा सा अच्छा इंटरेस्ट डेवलप हो जाएगा उसके बाद में then we'll move a bit faster. और मुझे लगता है कि within 20-25 days we should be able to cover the entire syllabus, not only what is available in public domain but from the other sources also, some of which I have already shared. And this session was being recorded for the benefit of all, and the recording will be made available to